Sorry, my network was bad. Miss Grace Eyiolawi, over to you, ma. I think we should start. This is already 5:02.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome on board. I'm happy to be here and thank you for the invitation. Welcome to everyone. I hope we've been enjoying the bootcamp so far. Just as she has rightly said, my name is Grace Eyiolawi, and this will be very brief, all right? So we don't spend too much time, but I hope that it's going to be very, very actionable. So my name is Grace Eyiolawi. I am the founder of She AI Africa, and what I do, my work, I work as a programs manager, and my work really just lives at the intersection of technology and governance. And I'm going to be spending the next hour just walking you through how technology is built. I mean, the theme for the conversation today is understanding, building, and thriving through technology. And just a quick one. I would also like us to maybe type in the chat. Are you new to tech? Are you already deep into it? I would like to hear from us in the chat while I proceed, and definitely you can also share your questions. And so today's theme is how to build. And I believe that it's not just about how to build a software or a Telegram or a Facebook, an Instagram, something similar. It's also about how to build our careers, how to build our future, also leveraging tech. Tech is the wave, is the new wave, and especially in the age of artificial intelligence, which I am. I'm currently, I'm currently in this space. It's now important to ensure that we have like a mental model of how technology is built and how we can also take part. So just quickly, I want us to understand that. Oh, nice. Welcome, Miriam. Thank you for sharing. So I want us to understand that every technology that you see today, every tool, I'm going to be mentioning Telegram a lot because, of course, that's where we are that's what we're currently using. So any tool that you see today starts with someone who is curious enough um, to contribute something to the society and someone who wants to solve a problem. So when I was thinking about the topic for today, I just thought to myself, for you to even think about building, I don't know if the speaker has done justice to that yesterday. To think about building, it starts with you being curious. It starts with you wanting to solve a problem. So if you don't have like a problem, if you can't cite a problem, it's difficult for you to even creatively provide a solution or even to think about building with technology. So it starts with a question. It starts with you being frustrated about something. I'll also be using examples around us. For example, we have the financial tool, that's OPay, Nigeria, and we can see how solid OPay is when they are leveraging technology, but they are solving our issues. Unlike they are solving our issues based on their understanding of our culture, based on our understanding of our behavior, and they are solving a problem. What problem? You would think that a lot of us use different banks. Prior to when OPay came, prior to when OPay came on board, we used different banks, and I think one particular problem that it's always coming is how slow it is to carry out transactions, and we see that OPay, they identify that problem and see what they built with it. I don't think there's any time when I pick my phone and I'm about to make a transaction and OPay is telling me. In fact, even if there is maybe an issue with like the other bank, OPay would give you heads up, right? So it's important that you start with identifying a problem. So it starts with curiosity. And another thing, one thing for you to understand on how technology is built, just like I said, it starts with a problem, and then it also continues with research. So it's of course, it's okay to say, oh, I have identified this problem. Don't just move on to designing a solution or to building a tech. It's important that you research, right? As someone in the the technology space, research is very, very important. Quite a number of innovative solutions die out because they failed to conduct research. So, for example, as we go along, we're going to be talking about I'm going to be talking about some of the careers when it comes to like the building phase. Even if you want to be a software developer, you want to be a software engineer, and all of that, all right. Okay, we say, okay, those people, they just build, right? But there are people who ensure that they research before handing that over to like the software engineers. So research is so paramount. I've seen so many amazing companies die out because they failed to carry out their due research. So it's important that you research. And how do you research? You find out for people people who are experiencing the problem, who are like the people at the other end of it, your users, who is going to use that solution. So don't just say, oh, I don't just how would I how would I how would how would I how would I place it now? Don't just think, okay, fine, let me just since I know that there's a problem, let me just design a solution. No, it doesn't always work that way, right? Once you identify a problem, then it's important that you carry out necessary research. You go out to speak with those people that will use your product, or you leverage some tools. Using those tools you can collect, using, for example, we have Google Form, we have Block Survey, we have amazing tools that will help you put questions that you want to ask your clients or your users, and then you share with the general public. Just ensure that you get information. You don't just move on to designing that solution. And then after researching, it's so important that you design a solution. And then once you design, we have people in that career path, they are product designers. Of course, now is now the age of AI. I know some of us have heard of vibe coding, for example. But once you before you build, before your software, your front end or your back end would go ahead and build, you will need someone to sketch to, so that they have something to work with. And then of course, once you build, you have to test. You don't just build. For example, you don't just want to build like a fintech tool. You're playing with, you don't just play with people's money, because you're going to give it to users and they are going to use it and they are going to put their money in. So it's important. Most of these tools that we've seen, they've gone through number of iterations. They've been tested with a small group of users. You can also do a bit of research on, beta testing. Sometimes you'll be using a tool. Maybe a particular company will launch a tool and they will tell you it is in beta, meaning that it's still like, they're still testing it per se. It's live, but they are still testing before it now goes public. And then, of course, you can then improve it over time. But building, possibly the other speaker has spoken about it, I'm not sure. But building starts with, like I said, problem. Please don't, if as a student, you might have that big dream. You have to research. And that's why in your final year as a student, you are encouraged to, carry out some research, right? Then before you now move on to design, building, and then test and ship. So that's what building entails. And for some people, they will call it something called software development. Software development. So another key thing that I also want to mention, in alignment to what we're talking about, is that we have different. I would just like to talk about different roles, right, in the context of building with tech, or you want to build a technology. So there are different contexts. We have different roles, so you don't have to be everything at once. You can participate. We have front-end developers. Front-end developers are people who can build. So this is a very technical role. It has to do with coding. For example, I'm not a front-end developer, but I work with them, right? As a product manager, as a program manager, I work with them. So front-end development has to do with majorly coding, right? And then these people are people who build what users see, the interface that you see. For example, look at Telegram now. You can see everything. You can see my avatar. You can see my name. You can see the placement of Tech Bootcamp 1.0. You can see that small box, with a tiny circle. You can see the 3 buttons. Front-end users are the ones that build all of those things that you see. I hope you get that. So we also have, back-end developers. Those are people that build what runs at the back end. So for me to be speaking, right, I had to unmute myself. The fact that you can hear me, the fact that I could click on the microphone and it worked is because of the work that they have done in the back end, right? It's the work they've done in the back end, ensuring that it works smoothly. And then we also have product managers. They are the ones that set the direction. Product managers are the ones that set the direction. They are the ones that give the vision. They are the ones that they guide the developers. They guide developers to know what to build, right? So as a product manager, you are the lead. You're like guiding, okay, this is what we are building. This is why we are building it. You are the one who is also responsible for the research. You're responsible for researching, because whatever it is that you give them is what they build. You coordinate that development ecosystem, ensuring that everyone is hitting target. They are doing what they are meant to be doing. You also have to have an understanding of like the technical bit, but you are not, another thing also is, you might have to do more research, is that we also have technical product managers, people who have to really, they have to be technical. So aside that, we also have data scientists, people who work with, data, right? They help to extract insight from data. For example, as Telegram is running now, this Telegram is running every day, is working every day. There are people at the back end, data scientists, who have to understand. They have to extract insights. They have a dashboard. How many downtime did we have today? When did the application, when did it fail? And how many reports do we get? What happened? They track it, they extract, they make sense of data across different, different users. They help to make sense of every single thing. And then we also have DevOps engineers. They help to ensure that the system, is functioning, stays alive as it ought to. We have UX designers, ensuring that, the products are usable, they are fillable. We also have QA engineers. We have, you call it quality assurance engineers. They are the ones that ensure that, if something is going to fail. For example, now, if the camera feature is going to fail, they are able to identify some problems in the system. Right. So in the building, when it comes to building, you can, as a student, as a technologist, there are different roles that you can plug into. There are different things that you can do. You just have to find your strengths. Are you a bit more of like, the very, very technical person, or do you like technology? Do you really like technology, but you feel like you want to also help manage? Then you might be like a sort of like the product. You like to set the tone, you like to set the vision, you like to research, then you might want to be like a product manager. Are you the kind of person who you have a calculative mind, the data scientist? So I think another thing I'll quickly like to go into, I've spoken about the roles when it comes to building. I would also maybe like to give you like a practical, how it looks like practically. So, for example, like I said, I talked about identifying a problem. So, for example, let's say in a community, you identify that women in the community, they struggle to access maternal health information in their local language. You see that a lot of people want to, maybe you notice that quite a number of people want to, they can't understand information in English. Not everybody can understand. And then you notice that that is a problem in your community. You want to be able to, you want to ensure that, the information accessible to them is also available in Yoruba, in Hausa, in Igbo, different languages. You just want to ensure that it's done. So that's a problem, right? So once you identify that problem, another thing I mentioned is ensuring that you also conduct research, and you have so many tools. For example, you also have to know that there are certain things that you can't. For example, if you are approaching women in like a rural community, you can't say you want to like create like a research form in Google form. It's not going to work. It's not going to work at all, because they most likely haven't interacted with such systems. So you might need to go and talk to them. You might need to talk. I mean, I've seen quite a number of there is a particular tech software currently there. I've forgotten the name, but the founder operates somewhere in Osun State, and I saw that it's like a WhatsApp bot that helps to carry out financial transaction. And even though that thing happens on WhatsApp, also understanding that a lot of people use WhatsApp. Our mommies, our daddies, they make use of WhatsApp. But he didn't just carry out that research on Google Doc or something like that, or Google Form, or Block Survey, or some of like these survey apps. He went to the market to ask questions. To, even when the product launched, he even went to the market to also teach them how to use it. So that you have to understand that okay, depending on your users, how can you get the relevant information that you need? Do you need to go there and talk to them physically, or can you also just do that virtually? So, like I said, research is very, very important. So in that case, you have to go out and talk to the women that you want to solve a problem for. You have to understand how they get health information. It's in that research phase that you might even understand, that you might now come into the understanding that, oh, this solution is actually not going to, it doesn't need technology. I was going to say that not all problems maybe need technology, right? But of course, most will. But there are some that this simple thing could have solved it, right? So you understand how they currently get information. You also, for example, you understand the languages that they speak, the devices that they use. You have to understand the devices that they use. So maybe they are using the normal phone that does not that cannot use. You can't use WhatsApp. You can't use Facebook. You can't use Instagram. You can't get all those apps. Those are the kinds of phones, and you want to design a technical solution that requires Android, iOS, and all of that. It's not going to work. So you have to understand some of the devices that they use. Also, you might also need to even know, you might go to the extent of knowing how often they have electricity, because it would help you to build the right solution. And that research phase is very, very important. And then when it comes to design, you now have to sketch what the solution will look like. Once you have a mental, you've looked at the research, you make sense of the output, you now need to sketch out the solution. You now need to sketch out the solution. What is it going to be like? Okay, do you want it to just be like a bot, like a WhatsApp, something to they can just chat with, something like Meta AI now, Meta AI, you can easily add, it's like a system that was built. You could, based on your research, you get, okay, do you want it to be like something like that? Or do you want it to be like a voice-based app? You start to think about how you want the design, what you want to build. Of course, you are not yet coding at that point, but you are already putting out, okay, how you want it to be. That is how it first starts. And then it even helps you, to understand, okay, what are the steps that, my user would need to take if they want to open, this solution, if they want to use it will help you. You have to think. A lot of work that we see for this Telegram, Telegram as a whole, you have to do a research of how many people, how many team members that organization. So it's a lot of work. You have to think about your costs, right? It is in that research phase you think about your costs. It helps you know the kind of infrastructure. I hope we all know that technology is beyond all of this 15 gig, Google. I know all of us make use of Google. We have a 15 gig storage space. It's beyond that. Technology is beyond that. Technology is wide enough, right? If you want to build like something very something based on like what you've researched, you might even discover that you might need a cloud storage, more than that, and that you would have to pay for, right? You would need I don't know if you've also heard of AWS credits. It just depends. So it starts the research, right? It's very, very important that you get that. It helps you know how to build it, what to build, the cost, even how much you're going to need. And then you now take it to the build phase. This is when you do all the coding. You need someone technical. For example, we have the Paystack, the Flutter Wave of today, every single thing that you need a developer, or you can even become one. So, and I believe that this is where the conversation, is bringing us to, so that where you fit in. That is when you build, that is when you write code, and hopefully later on, I believe that the bootcamp can also have like a software. Later on in the future, we could have like a software development bootcamp, etc., where people who are interested in building, in actually becoming developers, can also learn how to write code. There is also something called API, but I will not want to go deep into that because that's a bit it's technical. That is what developers work with to ensure that these solutions are brought to life, to ensure that when I click on the microphone, I'm able to speak. When Samuel starts the call, it's working, right? So that is where the technical skills come in. So another thing also is that most of the technical, they always test it, because a lot of things break. For example, I'm very sure some of us have made use of some software. For example, maybe like the saving app, Piggyverse, Carrywise. You're trying to do something and it's not working. It's not working. That thing works before. It worked in previous time. You notice that when you click on, you want to save, and then for some reason, a particular feature is not working. You've tried everything as a user, and then you've noticed that you just go and you just send them an email, or you call them, or XYZ. That is because something has broken, and then they have to maybe put some, sometimes some tech companies will also have to maybe draft out a statement to tell you that, okay, this XYZ is not working. For example, some of the AI tools that we use, OpenAI, Cloud, some of these AI systems, I don't know if you've noticed, sometimes you see Canva, even Canva, you've noticed that, for, I don't know if anyone has also just, noticed, for Canva, etc. For example, on the internet, if you're very active on internet, or if you work with the tool, for example, for Canva can be down, ChatGPT can be down. I don't know if you've experienced any of that, right? It can be down, and that is because something has broken. But at the back end, we even have, some of these companies have like a service page where they tell you, they give updates on, their services, so you can easily just go there and check the status of any or any software, right? So, but it's possible, and then you see that, the developers are the ones who, the QA engineers, they are ensuring that even before things break, they catch the sight of an error and then they fix it. But there are some times when he actually breaks, right? And that's where they also take feedback. So you can be within, it's possible as an individual for you to be within this building ecosystem. You can be a part of this. And one thing I also want us to have at the back of our mind is to feel like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do X. You can, why not? Right? So another thing that I would also talk about, now we've talked about building, I believe that we all know what building entails, is about scaling. What does it take to scale? It's different for you to just build. How do you ensure that what you build at the end of the day, gets to the, it gets to the hands, of the people you actually built it for? So For example, it's aside from building is not that you just build, right? It's also important that you think about, okay, I'm not just the only one who will use this product. This tool is, you are going to, many people will use it. For example, Telegram built this voice chats to host, quite a number of people. Like, you can host, for example, WhatsApp. I'm not sure if WhatsApp can take more than 250 persons in a group. And that's why most communities sometimes will bring their community into Telegram, because Telegram can take a large number. I don't know if you've noticed that. And that's because of infrastructure. They built, that system to be able, because it takes, building something for one person is different from building something for 10. It's not different from building something for 10,000 or even more. OPay has a lot of users. So, apart from, you're excited, oh, I built this, if you want to, you have to think that, it can crash, right? For example, where some of us are students, most of us are students, so for example, they tell you, oh, my portal is not working. The portal has broken. It's because, was this system built to accommodate this number of persons? Or even aside from the number, you have to anticipate what your user will use your system for, the device they will be using your system on. Because, for some of us, I don't know if you've noticed, for some of us, we maybe have like an app, and then the app keeps crashing on our device because there's no storage space. I don't know if that's not you've observed that. There's no storage space, or the app cannot even work. For some devices, some apps will not work if you don't have like a very strong internet connection. So you have to think about, okay, how easy do I want my product to be? For example, if you want to host a webinar and you use Zoom, I don't know if you use Zoom for that webinar, and maybe most of your audience, they are staying in like an area with very low internet connection, they will struggle to join that conversation on Zoom. Because for some reason, Zoom has a need for, a high bandwidth connection. For example, some people might not even be able to turn on their videos because of internet. So you have to build with that in mind, right? You have to build with that in mind. For example, I've noticed that Google Meet is a bit more manageable. Telegram is also a bit more manageable. WhatsApp, LinkedIn. So WhatsApp is even much better, right? But so if you are, and I believe that, for example, tools like, Zoom, etc., they built with, the Westerners in mind as well, knowing that, of course, they don't have issues with, internet, the bandwidth, but for example, that maybe Google Meet is maybe in the middle, knowing that they want to, balance both ends. And then WhatsApp, you understand that WhatsApp, of course, is building for the mass, right? So as especially in Africa, you then have to say, okay, if your audience is really if you want to build like a conferencing platform, something like a Zoom, a Telegram, you have to ensure that you understand, what it takes, because what works for a 10 person might not work for 10K. I best believe if we have like 10K persons on this call today, I'm very sure Telegram is going to feel it. We might have some drop-offs, etc. So these things happen, right? So if you want to build with scale, you have to understand, can my system, what I want to be, can it handle? You have to research. It's not just building like a very, very fancy thing. If you don't do your research on what it takes to scale, it's possible that the next day it crashes. Another thing is cloud infra. I don't know if you've heard of cloud. Everything we are doing now is based on cloud. Is based on, I don't know if you've heard of data center. Because of the evolution of AI now in this age, we know something called data center, right? All of these things, it takes a lot of resources. You might just think, oh, I'm doing this. Oh, what you're seeing is just like the surface. There are a lot of things going on in the background. It takes a lot of resource. And that's why I really love, for some reason, I'm just in love with Telegram. I don't know why, of course, quite a number of people use Telegram. I'm very sure in some demography, some countries, they might have more user base. But in Nigeria, of course, some of us use it, quite a number of us use Telegram, but not for, every day to day. We use WhatsApp a lot. But I love Telegram. Do you know why I like Telegram? Is because for Telegram, my messages are stored. Like, I can access my messages anywhere. That's why most times I send in my important messages to a personal workspace on Telegram, because I know that if I change to 1 million devices, although I've not tried 1 million, but if I change to 3 devices, I will find my messages. I just need internet connection. But for WhatsApp, I'm not doing a comparison. All of them, they work for different, and you can't also blame them, because all of these things, there's no infrastructure powering them. And that's why you would have noticed that Telegram even has like a sort of paid subscription. Of course, on WhatsApp, you wouldn't have noticed, the paid, just maybe for WhatsApp business and all. But Telegram has this paid subscription thing. And of course, they have to make money, but they are doing a very great work. Because for WhatsApp, now, if you've noticed, if you change to another device, maybe you have to back up. You have to it's just a lot of work. You have to ensure you back up on your device, or back up to an email, or back up to something, before you can even get it's a strenuous process. But for Telegram, except if you are away from Telegram for a number of years, they have to delete some of your data, right? They have to delete. And that's because of resource infrastructure, because they are burning a lot of resource. They are burning a lot of resource space, storage space, the data center, like I said, they are burning. So they would have to, like, okay, if this user is not available for maybe 1-2 years, we delete their data. But as long as your data is still there. So it helps you, it just boils down to how you should think as a builder. That is beyond the surface. Oh, it's fancy. I feel like building this, but you have to sit down to really understand. Sometimes you might need to get your developer friends. Sometimes you might need to become the developer yourself and take some courses and get into some spaces, so that what you build at the end of the day is resilient and it doesn't collapse. Then, like I said, ensure that you're building for your audience. If you are building for the African audience, know that we are suffering low bandwidth. We are suffering data costs, your users, data costs. For example, Netflix, for example, Netflix, the subscription that we pay is quite cheap compared to those in the UK, in the US. I don't know if you've noticed that. It's quite cheap. And that's because of the understanding of the audience. And that is why, as a builder, when it comes to designing you're thinking about something to offer, like a product to offer, you also consider your audience. For example, Netflix, you see that they've designed it. They have different subscriptions. If you just want to maybe use on your phone, you want to watch from your phone, you want to be the only one watching, okay, you are going to pay 2,400. They are building for their users in mind. If you want to, for example, they have different grades. If you want to be able to access movies from different your pad, your phone, different users, they have a different plan for you. So you think with that in mind. Aside from, as a builder, you have to think about profit as well. You have to think about, okay, for your user, what works, what doesn't work, and all of that, for you to scale. Because if you just build and then you don't have users, except you're just building as a case study, you don't have users, that means you didn't do the work that it requires, and that still boils down to research. Then another thing, I'll just be wrapping up quickly. I'm about to wrap up, but I would just like to also talk about like how AI also helps to build. So when it comes to building, in this age of AI, we can leverage on AI tools to build as well. AI has become very, very supportive, and is also augmenting. AI is now augmenting, our workflow, is making things easy. It's not easy for you to generate a code. Most software developers now, software engineers, they make use of ChatGPT, Cloud, some of like this frontier AI companies. They now have some, code tools to help software engineers build quickly and very fast. As a builder, you can also make use of that, meaning you also have to have an understanding of how to use AI systems to get what you need. So also as a builder, especially if you're like, a technical person, you can also learn how to leverage some of these tools to get what you want. even like I said, building is not just about, being technical. You can be a product manager, you can be a data scientist. It's very, very important for different roles. You can leverage AI tools to get you what you want. So it's very, very important. And another thing I would also like to share is with respect to Africa. I want us to understand that, as an African, it's also important, as an African, it's also important for you to know that, a lot of people will say, you are at a disadvantage. Do you have the tools? We don't have the light, the electricity. Of course, there are so many limitations. But while we are also calling for, accountability on the part of government to get things right, we also can see stories from, around Africa of how, African developers are really building even out of like, the scarcity, that we have, which is quite commendable. So the most important thing is for you to start. Also, you can also access different opportunities on the internet to help you get things done. There are so many incubators, accelerators that can help support, developers, to get work done, that give access, so many hackathons, that will also help you access, some of like the tools that you need to build. And quickly, let me talk about what it takes, career growth and global opportunities when it comes to building. So like I said, I think I mentioned some of the key roles, but one thing that you should also know is, okay, how do I get started? Once I understand that, okay, I want to become a product manager, I want to become a software engineer, maybe I just want to even become a programs manager, I want to become, let's say you even just want to become a community manager, right? etc. Whatever it is that you want to. One thing personally that I have also learned from my developer friends, or my data scientist friends, is that, some of us, we're in school now, we're studying we're studying different courses. Personally, I studied microbiology, and today I'm working in tech, right? Quite a number of us are studying XYZ different courses, right? But another thing, one thing I like to tell people is that you can integrate technology into whatever it is that you do. Even, for example, if I really wanted to continue, like, in microbiology, right? There are, several ways in which I could, infuse tech. Even if tech, in a country like Nigeria, things like microbiology, right, should already be digitized in our university institutions, because that's what is done, outside here, right? Because there are so many ways technology can be infused into some of our career. But if you just want to be focused on tech itself, most people that I know are self-taught. So aside from going to of course, we have some of them who, they went to school, they are now they study computer science, which is great, right? But you don't have to maybe study computer science, study something computer related. I've worked with people who they studied agriculture, something in the field of agriculture, and today they are software engineers. They are doing so well, right? So it even gives you an advantage, to be honest, because that way you can even bring your domain expertise as an agriculturist into whatever it is that you are building. Who knows, you might end up building something in that space, right? It helps you. So, but you don't have to, study tech coding in school, university. You can you can be self-taught. We have YouTube. YouTube is, you just need to sit down and be committed. Some of us are just not committed. We have some of everything. YouTube, make use of YouTube. Even some of these frontier AI companies. For example, if you say, okay, I want to learn AI, I want to learn machine learning. These frontier AI companies, they also give out talent development opportunities. They have a lot of talent development initiatives that Google has. They have like, a Google developer space where you can learn different things, learn how to use different tools. So you have to learn how, most of them are self-taught. You can also attend boot camps. We also have, this is like a foundational boot camp. This is just to provide like an overview of, what field, what area, the opportunities. But I'm definitely looking forward to some of like the boot camps, other editions that will be organized by Samuel. So it can really focus on a particular niche, right? So you can focus on a particular niche. You can actually learn how to code, learn how to manage products, etc. But you just have to ensure that you also plug into boot camps. There are several boot camps, that you can plug into, that are free. Some are paid. Personally, I have paid for training programs that cost quite a lot, right? I remember as at 2020, as at last year, at the beginning of last year, I think I paid about like 100K, 150. There are even more programs, right? Just to deepen your understanding. But they are still free boot camps. They're actually free boot camps that you can leverage. But it's just that some people don't really value some of that, and that's why some edtech institutions place certain value, right? Wanting you to pay, so that once you pay, you know that you don't want your money to go down the drain. So another thing, if you want to really be a technical, even people who are not technical contribute to open source projects. You might want to contribute to projects that are open source, that are widely available to the public. You have to start. It's not just about watching. It's not just about watching. How would I describe? It's not just about watching videos, courses, and all of that. Trust me, you have to work on a project. So that's why if you meet your friends, come together, work on something, because even at the end of the day, we are learning tech. Some of us are in the tech ecosystem. Why? We're in the tech ecosystem because, okay, you want to be financially free. You want to also be, hey, you want to make money. You want to achieve financial independence. But for a company to hire you, if you don't show a tangible value, you can't just show brain value. You have to show tangible value. For example, for myself, I'm a founder, I'm a builder. Like I just set the vision. I'm a product manager, I'm a program manager. I just set the vision. But if a company wants to hire me, it's not just about me talking, right? You are listening to me talk. It's not just about the talk. Talk is great, yeah. But they will go to my profile, check the work that I've done, and there is proof. They will check, did this thing actually happen? Did she design this campaign? Did she design this program? Did she manage this project? They will check, because they need to see tangible value to be able to entrust you and say this person is deserving of this role, and then is deserving of a financial return. So that means, as you are building yourself, as you are working on a skill, you've identified the role based on what I've mentioned, you have to start contributing to open source projects, contribute to projects. And that's why if you attend most boot camps organized by these edtech institutions, they will tell you that there is something that you are going to work on. There's a project. That's because they also want you to apply what you've learned. So that is so important. Please, let me just tell you, having everything in your head is not going to inform any company to make a hiring decision. They will not. It has to do with what you've done, your project. So if you are a developer, do you have a GitHub profile? I don't know if anybody knows what GitHub is. Do you have a GitHub profile? Skills are in demand. There are so many skills that are in demand. Full stack web development, machine learning. Machine learning is like an emerging, like a bright field right now. Cyber security, data engineering, and there are some people that say, "Oh, must I learn all of these things? Like, do I want to learn it because because AI is going to take my job? AI is taking this. Why should I even just learn something right now? Learn it." If anybody should ask me, because I work in the AI space, they're telling me, they're saying, "Ma'am, is AI going to take my job?" Most times, I'm just like, just know, like, AI cannot take like that expert value that you bring. Of course, AI would maybe what you're doing, it can generate it in minutes and all of that. But whoever is going to hire you is still going to need they still know that you are a domain expert, and that you are going to, like, you would help, guide the implementation or even the usage. And he also talks about like the importance of also learning how to use AI in your field. So that's what I often tell people, is how you can start to learn how to make use of even AI, what kind of use case in your field, but learn something, right? Instead of just getting consumed by the fear. But it is also important. I will never AI education is so important. It's very, very integral. Then another thing is you have to also, on this journey to building, to also thriving in the tech ecosystem, like I said, you need like a digital platform to host your work. And one thing for developers, your GitHub profile is one. You can't be saying that you're applying for like a front-end development role and you don't have a GitHub profile. It's not going to work at all. It's not going to work at all, right? You need you need a sort of digital profile. It could even be your LinkedIn. It could be like your blog. If you're a technical writer, it could be like your blog, something to just explain what you do. So just like I said, once you start contributing to projects, it's important that you start building your portfolio as well. Build your portfolio, ensure that it works. Something that anyone can go to. Show your work is so important. Even frontier AI system, no matter what it is, it doesn't have to be something so big. You're like, oh, I don't even know. You can start somewhere, right? Another thing on this journey to building and thriving in the space, you need people. You need a network. You need to attend events where you just need people, because at the end of the day, people even help to recommend you. You need communities. Also, when you're in a community, you have to ensure that you're not passive. So a lot of us like to be very passive, like you like to be so quiet. Like I consider myself I know, like, where I'm coming from, I was a shy person, but right now I don't affiliate with that anymore, because I've learned to break out of my shell. Because in the tech ecosystem, you need to find community. And aside from being in a community, a lot of us were in different communities. You have to, of course, you don't have to be in so many communities at the same time. Just identify the community that is valuable to you at this stage. It gives you access to mentors, it gives you access to collaborators, it gives you access to colleagues who are willing to build stuff, opportunities that you cannot undermine. That communities like that give you access, opportunities, so important, right? So and then once you get access to that, that's how you're able to grow. That's how you're able to grow. So as a closing, I will take your questions, but as a closing, one thing I would just like to share again here is that, as a closing, one thing I would just like to share is that right now we are in a tech-driven ecosystem. I think I was on X the other day, and some of, like, the HRs, who recruits, they were saying things like some graduates do not even know what Google Meet is. They don't know what they don't know what Zoom is. And if you've noticed, a lot of jobs these days are now remote. For example, I work remotely. I work fully remotely. Even if your work is not remote, it depends on what you do. Even if your work is not remote, nowadays, you can be asked to come to the office, but you can be asked to come to the office, but as you come to the office, you'll be required to maybe take a day off, right? You'll be required to take a day off, right? And on that day, you're not like taking a day off to rest in your house. You are working from your house, so it's hybrid. And you would need to know how to use some of these platforms, because your colleagues might be at work the day you're at home, right? And they will still need to have meetings with you. You need to know how to use some of these technical tools, these platforms. So whether you like it or not, it's so important that you learn how to be technical, you need to be technical driven. You need to know of the tools that apply to your area of work. It's no longer an excuse, right? It could be an excuse for maybe our daddies and mummies in the public system, right? Even that public system, we're getting to a point where government, they need to start to digitize many process. For Nigeria, it's a lot of work to do, right? But as a person, you need to equip yourself. If not, you get there are people that those are categories of people that AI can now displace. You don't even know how to use simple technical tools. You don't know what Google Meet is. You don't know what Zoom is. The HR, it happened recently. The HR, when I was on X, said they asked the candidates what is Zoom. The candidate said Zoom is a music platform, maybe because of the sound of Zoom. He said it's a music platform, which is, when you get on a call like that, you're trying to look for a job and you tell them Zoom is a music platform. They are wondering, hey, obviously it's a turn off. So you have to keep yourself right with the knowledge of, you have to use them. Besides knowing them, you have to use them. So another thing is that I would like to also wrap up with is that um one thing you need to know is that technology is already here, AI is already here. You have to ensure that you are a participant. You are not just a spectator. I've already said that. Ensure you're a part. And this thing is not like, oh, I'm working, I'm working physically. You're working remotely. Somebody that is working physically. No, a lot of people that are working remotely now, they are the ones earning so much. Right? Like this software develop, of course, they put in the work. So just because you work remotely because of your knowledge of technology does not now mean that you abuse. They don't put in the work. They put in a lot of work, right? So it's just important that if you want to find value, whether you are still like the on-site or you're remote, like you have to master the knowledge of technical tools, because even when you're at the office, you're making use of these technical tools. So, if anything resonated with you today, I just wanted to know that it's so important that, like I said, I already talked about the cycle. Identify a problem. Once you identify a problem, I don't know if any of us know, in Lagos, there's this shuttles. Yes, shuttles. Of course, is that riding platform. A lot of people, you would have thought that life ends at Uber, with Uber boats, all of that thing. Who knows that, okay, we need something like shuttles, which is making life easy for people. And people are even trying to ensure that, the management try to also ensure that it scales to many other places, right? So no matter what, try to observe problems. Don't be curious. Like, people that you see today that are builders, that are founders, that are doing exciting things, Opay, Flutterwave, Piggyverse, they started with identifying a problem. So if you want to build, or even if you want to be a part of, what they are building, you have to find yourself in, maybe, okay, I want to be a product manager. I want to be able to help support founders to set the vision to man. You have to pick out something, but you have to be technical driven. And like I said, all of this talk, I already talked for, this is 55 minutes already. I'm already ending the call. Another thing, apart from this talking, nothing is going to shift if you don't have like an action plan to say, what am I going to do going forward? What do I want to specialize in? So if you're like me, after this call, I'll just outline all of these particular roles that I have. What are my strengths? Did you know there are tools online? If you don't know what you want, there are tools online that will help you know what to. You just have to tell them your strengths, what you know how to do, what you like to do, and you'll find like a perfect career fit for you. There is some See, I don't believe that there is nothing that you can find anything online. One of my friends was telling me that she generated an image using um um AI, and but there is a watermark on the image. Although I'm a governance person in the tech ecosystem, one of the things that I'm championing against is that we should try to ensure that there is a way we can still label an image as AI. Even if there a user is able to remove watermark, right? But still, my friend was telling me that how can I remove this watermark? there are tools on the internet that can help you remove watermark. There's nothing that you go and look for. Life is easy if you have the internet connection. The only thing is internet connection that I feel like our governments, we need to, the infrastructure is so poor, and then electricity. Those are two critical things that I feel like are hindering transformation in this country and even beyond. Once we get those things right, things are going to get better, right? But I just want, with what you have, at the end of this call, try to see to what are my strengths, what do I want to focus on, and start to learn the tools, the frameworks, what you need to know to be a good software engineer, to be a good product manager, and start to work on projects. So I think that will be all from my hand. Samuel, I don't know if I was able to if I did justice to the topic, or yeah, I think my, not just Samuel, my hosts, yeah, Metasis. I'm not sure if I was able to do justice to that, but just let me know if you have questions. I think I can see questions here, but just let me know if you have questions. But I can see Metasis asked, is GitHub similar to LinkedIn? So GitHub is not similar to LinkedIn. So they are for two different things, just like my other colleague said on the call. So GitHub is for if you're a software engineer, a software developer, like you're really a software developer, you're coding, you're building a technical project. It's just like you want to make your code. I don't want to go to technical. Maybe the technical person can break it down. You want to make it available so that other developers can use it. Some of them are open, some of them are closed, but it's majorly for open source projects anyways. So they make codes, projects live, anybody can use it, different version control. That is where some companies also host some of like their work. So it's majorly very technical software development focused, right? So not everybody will use GitHub, but to be honest, so people like me who end up using GitHub, I might not be technical, but I would document some things on GitHub, or I would work with technical teams and I would be there. So that's why I said it's not just limited to software developers, but majorly they are the ones who are involved with GitHub. But if you are working for LinkedIn is majorly like it's for everyone. LinkedIn is for everyone, whether you're a software developer, but as a software developer, if you have, or even a product manager, especially a technical product manager, or a product manager working for like a fintech or like a health tech, or you have to show them that okay, this is some of our work. You can show them, right, on GitHub. But LinkedIn is like for everybody. To be honest, it's for everybody. It's to introduce yourself, to tell the world what you do, to to showcase your project. Is for anything, for anyone and everything. So I hope I answered your question there. All right. Okay, thank you, Kadik. Okay, so for someone just starting, how can they decide which role in software development is best for them? Which role in software development is best for them? Great. Or is try multiple roles, or later said, yeah, to be honest, some of my friends who are developers, they started with many things. Yeah. Before they ended up with, okay, let me just stick to one, right? So at the end of the day, they have one strength than the other. So if you are just starting, you can just start with maybe full stack, to be honest, and then maybe with time. So with time, you might notice that, okay, you are much better with front end than back end, or maybe because of the roles you keep getting, they are just putting you front end, and then you just build expertise over time. So I would just advise, you can start with, not like you will not do software development, you go and do product management, you go and do data, everything together. It's not going to work. That's a lot. But in terms of software development, that there is now some software developers now end up going into machine learning in the age of AI, right? And all of that. But they start with software development. And even quite a number of people would advise, if you want to be an AI engineer, they would advise that you get the software development basis before you go into AI engineering. But I would just advise that you start, if you are in software development field, you can start. It's fine to start. Most of my friends started with like both of them, but with time, maybe based on the roles that you are getting hired for, you might end up, or maybe because of your interest, you might just end up sticking to one. And there's some people that do both of them together, but it's good to have like a sort of expertise, right? Like, and all of that. So I want to be sure I answered your question, Meta says. Okay. All right. So the next question I can see here from Kadik is, one of the major limitations of building AI systems in Nigeria is the lack of the yeah. What practical strategies can be implemented to generate, to access, and sustain reliable reward data within this context? That's a good question. I tell you, it's a very good question. I think I was just coming from a webinar. And, in Nigeria, our data infrastructure, whether collection or whether processing, whether conversion into something that you can interpret for valuable, you can valuably interpret into like valuable information for use. Our infrastructure is so bad in terms of data, to be honest. In Nigeria, it is so bad. It's it's like it's like a key issue in our research space. Researchers are battling with it. It's so bad, and that is why when Westerners are building solutions, you notice that Africans are not really, we're not really, how would I describe it now? We're not really, they don't really have us in mind. For example, if I use, it's something I've taken note of. If I use Canva, I don't know if you know Canva. Canva is like a design tool. Most times, if I maybe search for like an image, I'm looking for an image and I search for it, it's so difficult for me to see an image of a black person, except if I now contextualize it. I say black Nigerian, even that black Nigerian, you will not really find something suitable. The output it gives you at first is like pictures of white people, which is not bad, but for a good design system, there should at least be like some sort of balance, right? But at the same time, when I think about it, I feel like it's not their fault because it's not easy to get data that really represents us, like in the country, like even like in the continent. It's quite difficult. It's not easy because we don't have good and efficient collection, or even like storage, how we manage data, keeping and all of that. The infrastructure is not there at all. And then another thing also that I consider is restrictions. You can't, if you just go online, for them to make use of this data, you can't just use anybody's picture that is, because most of them, copyright, you have to be laws and restrictions, right? Kind of in there. But what practical ways, what can we implement is, the government has a lot of work to do. We have to, there's something called Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. I can't even remember what their name is. But we have to strengthen some of like these data focused institutions, ensuring that they are well funded, right? Ensuring that they are well funded so that they can do their work. We also have to ensure that these institutions are also, they undergo digital transformation. They have to rethink how they collect data. When you manually collect data these days, if you collect, compared to nowadays, if you collect data manually, is so easy for you to lose it, right? It's so easy for you to make mistakes while processing it and give an inaccurate output or result. So our government or even private institutions, stakeholders, we need to look at how we can digitize, just transform that area. We have to think about that. It's so important. So and then like I've talked about funding, I've talked about also it boils down to individuals ensuring that we are now ensuring proper digitalization, right? In terms of, so that way we're able to make data widely available for AI use across the continent and even in Nigeria. So I just hope I've addressed your question, Kadik. All right, so Metasi says a lot of people learn but still struggle to get opportunities. What do you think they are missing? For people who don't have access to many resources, how can they still grow in software development? This is a very good question. I agree with you. They struggle to get opportunities. First of all, is like, do they, like, I mentioned something earlier. I said that I know I mentioned it earlier. I mentioned that on this journey, aside from learning, you have to transform your learning into actual projects. So you have to work on projects. You have to work on your, and a lot of people don't have that consistency. They don't have the perseverance. They don't have the endurance to come. See, it's a lot of work. Oh. If you want to build relevance, if you want to build yourself to be very valuable, it's a lot of work. But a lot of us are not patient to build it. Some of us are tired. Oh, from the first month I started learning software development, I'm not getting money. You can't. It takes time. All of this, you are seeing the tech bros, tech sis. They're getting my friends, even though they earn money. Like some of my friends, some of my friends, my network that are really into the software engineering. Yeah, I can tell you for a fact they earn a lot. But the journey to earning that much, even while earning that much, they do a lot of work. Like some of them don't even have, like personal life outside work. They struggle to, because it's a lot of, so before you get to that place, of course, at the end of the day, on their career, there's that balance. But you just have to put in the work, ensuring that when you are learning, you are building projects, you are contributing. Another thing to getting opportunities is that immediately you might not get paid role. Of course, you'll be lucky that whoever is employing you kind of gives you like something paid, like a paid stipend. You have to be willing to maybe take up like volunteer, intern, sometimes without pay, because you want to have the experience. You want to have experience. You want to have that project. For example, you might even do it such that, okay, you want to intern with like a big company. They might not give you the money, but because you know that having them on your profile is going to attract opportunities. And you just have to be comfortable with that for a few months. But even in that few months, ensure that you're not just working without pay for nothing, but you're actually getting the value such that you have, and also keep your work. Some companies don't allow you to take on. You have to also, if you know that you need to, what you want to gain from that company is that you want to ensure that you take ownership, like that proof of work. If the company is also going to allow you to put the work out there, that means it's something you're going to take a step from, right? But I feel like for any company that would ask you, for a while, you're not going to pay, they're going to pay you, at least you should be able to take ownership for some of the things that you've done, right? So you might say that, okay, for this company, you are willing to at least sacrifice a few months just because you know that at the end of the day, you are getting somewhere. You can go to boot camps and ensure that you work on projects you can put out there. And then opportunities. Opportunities is not you are applying for one job in a day. You're not going to get anything that way. You're not going to get anything because there are so many people competing with you from all over the world, and they have much better circumstance than you. And they get opportunities, right? AI systems now, they are screening CVs, and maybe your CV would even be part of the ones that they won't even give a chance. So it's important for you to ensure that you are applying for so many opportunities, like you have to be hungry for them till you get it, right? And like I said, you just can't get opportunities by just learning, right? You also have to be a part of communities. Like I said, be a part of communities and don't be passive. So for people who don't have access to many resources, how can they still grow in software development? Don't think that you don't. For example, I would say you just have to make it work. I understand that the country or Africa, so the country is not like light is, even in Nigeria, electricity is really a big challenge. I know, but sometimes I see that people do. There are some people that make use of their phones to even code. I'm so surprised. Like the day I saw it, but I'm not saying that you should use your phone to code. Like, of course, there are certain limitations. It makes it hard. But I've seen some people, they use their phones to code. And I'm like, how? But they are learning, they're actually learning something. And then some of them will now showcase it to the world, and somebody's inspired on the internet to get them a laptop. So you have to start from somewhere. In software development, you start from somewhere. Another thing is you can go to like a computer center. You can just plan your time. Okay, I'll go to this computer center and use their desktop, use their laptop. Maybe on your street there is this guy that uses that, your brother, or maybe you look up to him, he has a laptop. You can go to him, for a few hours. Go to, like, you have to learn how to just try to think about how to create. I know that this country, this is not to be honest, let me agree with everything I'm suggesting. I'm not trying to say that the government, they are that we should keep surviving. We're not supposed to be surviving. In other countries that are doing well, this is not what is made available. They have amazing, fantastic infrastructure to support learning, support growth. But this is where we find ourselves in, and we are still calling for accountability from government. But I would just advise you that just try to look at how to, uplift yourself, because at the end of the day, they will say it's your personal responsibility. Try to see how you can make things work. Look at around you, who has a system. Can you borrow it for or can you even be in their space and just use it for one? See, with time. And also another thing, for you to grow out of this, for you to grow out of it, if you don't have access to many resources, you have to build in public. So as you are making use of somebody's system and all, you have to showcase on your social media, showcase what you've done. One company or one individual will just spotlight you. It happens on X, it happens on Twitter, and then they'll just award you, a laptop. Leverage. There are some of these organizations that provide laptops, scholarships. You just have to show and prove yourself that you are worthy of that opportunity. You have to go the extra mile. You might not get it at first, but you try. When you go to hackathons, you go to some of these tech events, don't just keep quiet. Don't just keep quiet and go for fun. Some of them, they have gifts, but they reward it to people who talk, who speak out. So that's why I said in the tech ecosystem, sorry, you can't be shy. You can't. You have to speak out. So just have to find resources, however, like not illegal ways. Remember, I have not mentioned anything illegal. People just know, you can do it well, right? You can do it right. And I think that will be it. I don't know if I have any other question. I hope I answered your question there. Thank you. All right. Let me see if I have further questions. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much. In the absence of further questions, I think I'll hand over to the hosts for today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Is there any questions from the members that are just joining? If you have any questions, you can just drop it in the chat. Samuel, please, you have
Thank you very much, Miss Grace Eyiolawi. I'm very grateful, and everyone here also is grateful. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the. I don't even know what to say. I'm right now speechless because yes, it was really a wonderful session. Thank you very much, ma. And I guess we should appreciate her. We should appreciate her. Everyone that I know you can hear me, you can all hear me. Let's appreciate her on the group chat. We're expecting that. Thank you very much, ma'am. So in case we have any more questions, you can drop it on the chat. She would respond to them. And yes, we'll be bringing this session to a close. So let's not forget tomorrow by 5 p.m. Please, let's bring everyone. Tomorrow is going to be the last day. Let's bring everyone. A lot of us came here today. In fact, many people are not on the call. I'm so surprised that we had about 66 people on the chat, but just about 10, 11, not even up to 15 joined the call today. So please, if you know you have friends, you have relatives that are here on the chat, let's do well to remind them. Let's remind them that they should come along tomorrow by 5 p.m. It's going to be the last day. I know, yes, this is a free boot camp. A lot of people are not really taking it up like they should, but don't worry. Next one, don't let me say anything yet about that. But next one, it is well. So that's what I will say for now. So let's do well to appreciate her on the call. I'm really grateful for the great opportunity that she has given unto us like this to actually do this. And yes, this was a very, very interesting session. So by tomorrow, let's not forget, tomorrow we're having another wonderful person who is still also going to speak to us, and that's Mr. Muyiwa. I don't think he's on the call presently, but tomorrow, 5 p.m. again, we join. Thank you very much for joining us.